What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today we are talking about Game Week 18 Wildcard. Now, given that I used mine back in Game Week 5, a lot of people saved theirs for Game Week 16. I didn't think we'd be talking about it in Game Week 18, to be completely honest. I thought it would be a Game Week 24, 25, ahead of the Game Week 26 Double Game Week, is when most of us will be using the second wildcard. And I even said, don't use your wildcard this early, you're going to want to save it. But things have changed a little bit with the fixture rearrangements, right? And I want to talk about what this means, why wildcard might be a good idea. I should say right now, I've not hit the free hit button or the wildcard button. I will be using one of those two this week. I'm just not quite sure yet. But I've given the wildcard so much thought, I thought I could do a pretty good video about it, to be honest. So I'm going to go through all the permutations, why it might be a good idea, why it might be a bad idea, when the next double game weeks might be, and how you can plan for this one as well if you want to use the wildcard. So a pretty in-depth video, and then I'm going to do a draft at the end and show you the different options that you could go for. So please do give it a like if you enjoy it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and let's jump into it. So we should probably start off by talking about why the wildcard is now an option. Why was it not an option before? So a few game weeks ago, people were saying to me on live streams and stuff, should I wildcard in Game Week 17? Should I wildcard in Game Week 18? And I was kind of saying no, right? You should either use your free hit in Game Week 18, or if you don't have your free hit, you should just try and get through it and then use your wildcard for later on in the season for the Game Week 26 double, and then plan for the Game Week 29 blank, right? But things have changed. The fixtures have been rearranged. And I keep seeing people say things like, you know, I don't need it. My team's like this. I've got Man City players that don't need a wildcard. That's fine. A wildcard is not for everyone, but not everybody is in the same boat. For example, I got rid of Watkins and Kevin De Bruyne a few game weeks ago, right? The reason was to get Harry Kane in for his Fulham and Leeds fixture and then to swap him back to De Bruyne in Game Week 20, because at the time, in Game Week 19, both Kane and De Bruyne had good fixtures, but they only had one. And Watkins didn't have a double game week, and I brought in Rafinha, who did. But fixtures have been rearranged now, so it's nothing to do with the fact that, for example, Kevin De Bruyne has just scored points against Chelsea. It's that I only wanted him in Game Week 20 because I was going to free hit him in Game Week 18, and then in Game Week 19 I didn't mind too much because he didn't have a double game week. People weren't going to captain him, so he wasn't too much of an issue. And then I wanted him back for Game Week 20, so that was always my plan. But the fixtures have been rearranged, and this is a huge development, right? Man City have now got a blank and then a double. Man United have got a blank and then a double, right? And when I say they've got a blank, is in they've got a fixture in Game Week 18, both of them, right? So that is massive, because if you look at most free hit teams, I'd say they have triple City, which a wildcard can have two. They'll have triple Man United, double or triple Man United, right? So a wildcard can have that too. So that's already 5 or 6 spots in your first 11 the free hitters will have. They'll also work for the wildcard. The main differences, which I'll come on to when I talk about the draft later, is on a wild card, you probably need to go for Aston Villa players. On a free hit, you're probably going to go for Spurs players instead. You're probably not going to go for Watkins, maybe not Grealish or someone like that. So that's a little bit of a difference. And obviously, a lot of people are going to pile on Arsenal because they're playing Crystal Palace. It's very difficult to get loads of Arsenal players in your wildcard team and manage it for Game Week 19. But it's not often you get teams like Man United and Man City playing in a blank and then playing in a double straight after each other. I can't kind of reiterate how big that is, okay? Because then you can also get the optimum bench boost, right? You can build a team for Game Week 18 that also has 15 double game weekers for the bench boost, and then your bench boost is done. You're not worrying about it for the rest of the season. You've still got half the season to go. You're just focused on your first 11. And possibly the bigger thing is Game Week 20 to 24, the fixtures are quite good for the teams that I've mentioned. So Man United, Man City, Aston Villa, and Chelsea as well, who don't come into it for Game Week 18, but for Game Week 19, the fixtures are quite nice. And then for Game Week 20 to 24, they're pretty decent as well. So a lot of the players that are not only perfect for the free hit, also perfect for the double game week, also have good fixtures afterwards. So you're not just planning for 1 week or 2 weeks, you're planning for like 6 weeks. And don't get me wrong, there could be injuries, postponements, other transfers you have to make, but your team is set up. So any transfers that you need to make, that's fine, because you've gotten through the blank and the double with one chip and you've set up for the rest of it. For those of you that didn't wildcard in Game Week 16 like me, you wildcarded early, it's probably more prominent to be looking at this because perhaps you haven't got the ideal team for the bench boost. You're thinking about setting it up later on in the season. That's absolutely fine. You can do that. But potentially now is a better time to do it. If you've just wildcarded in Game Week 16, the chances are your team is fine. You'd have had to make, not mistakes, but got really unlucky for it not to be fine. You could have wildcarded in 16 and still want to wildcard in 18. I don't think that's a huge issue, but the chances are you can probably get through it with I don't know, free transfers or hits or whatever it might be. So this is more for people that haven't wildcarded late. And also I wanted to touch on the free hit flexibility potential, right? Easy to say, but a lot of people will put the wildcard as the best chip, which I would say it is, right? You get to change your team completely and then you get to keep it, but you don't always want to keep it, right? That's why we use free hits in blank game weeks. Now, there is further blank game weeks to come. Game week 29 is going to be another big blank game week, and game week 26 is going to be a double game week. Now, a lot of people, their plan will be to wildcard in game week 24 or 25, bench boost in game week 26, which is fine, but obviously we don't know who the cheap good options will be in game week 26, right? Right now we have Leeds, really good cheap options. We have Sofal, really good cheap options. Potentially Dallas on the bench, cheap options. Socek. There's lots of cheap options you can put on a bench boost team now that you can't necessarily do in game week 26 because it's about the unknown. So some people will say it's better to save chips for the unknown. You could argue that it's better to use chips when you know it's perfectly viable to do. So in game week 26 they'll bench boost. And then game week 29, the blank game week, people will then try, if they've not got their free hit, because chances are you're using one chip in 18, right? If you've used your free hit already, then you're wildcarding game week 24, 25, bench boost 26, and then you're worried about getting a team out for game week 29 as well. Now, we'll talk about what fixtures they could be later on, but it's not necessarily that easy. If you can get through 18 and 19 without using a chip, then yes, wildcarding into a bench boost for 25, 26, and then free hitting in game week 29 is an option. But if you're using one of those chips this week, I would argue that wildcard is almost as good as free hit. Obviously, the downside is you've not got a wildcard for the last half of the season, right? I fully get that. Game week 29 could be an awful blank game week where you don't need to use the free hit, but that's fine. That's where the potential comes in to then use it in 26 instead and build the perfect double game week team, right? So there's options with that. That's why it's flexible. So this is why it's now an option. Let's look at the fixtures and how game week 24, 25, 26, 29, etc. will all work. So I've kind of already touched a little bit on game week 26 and 29 already in the previous bit I did, but I want to talk about it a little bit more to kind of try and explain why there will be more doubles and blank game weeks, okay? So there's already fixtures to rearrange, okay? So Man United, Man City have been put into game week 18, game week 19 now, respectively, but there's still like Aston Villa versus Newcastle to be arranged. There's obviously the Fulham games that were missed, so Spurs missed a game against Fulham, so they'll have a double game week to put in somewhere. Exactly where they're going to be, we don't know yet. Man City have also got more matches to rearrange. They could be within game weeks 24 to 27 as well. It's all going to depend, all this stuff, on how far teams get in the European Cups and the domestic cups as well, right? So, for example, because Spurs are through to the EFL Cup final, they're going to have a blank in game week 33. That will be a need to be rearranged somewhere. But in game week 33, it's only the teams that make the EFL Cup final plus their opponent in game week 33 that will miss out. So there's only going to be 2 fixtures off there, unless there's postponements for any other reason, right? The reason game week 26 and 29 will be so heavily talked about is because they're going to be the next big blank game weeks and big double game weeks. So similar to game week 18 and 19, essentially. Now, the reason the blanks will happen in game week 29 is because of how far teams get in the FA Cup, right? The further you get in cup runs, the more chances you have for postponed Premier League fixtures later on, because the cup matches need to be played, so the Premier League matches get cancelled, and then you play them at another time. Now, we will know who's blanking in game week 29 in game week 24. So game week 24, when the FA Cup fixtures are played and finalised, we'll then know who's going to blank in game week 29, and then because they're blanking, right, I hope you're following this, they will then have another double game week at some point. Now, Ben Crellin, who I've mentioned a lot of times on this channel already, if you haven't followed him already, make sure you do on Twitter. He reckons most of those fixtures that blank in 29 will go to 26. So that's what we think is going to happen. It's not set in stone, but that's what he thinks is going to happen. So by game week 24, we will know, hopefully, who's going to double in game week 26. Therefore, you've got your potentially 2 rolled transfers into game week 24, 25 and 26 to make 4 free transfers to start building your team for game week 26. But obviously the hope is that the likes of Man City, Man United, etc. get through in the Cup, so they then double game week. So you've already built a team for them, and then you still keep them for game week 26. That's one of the big hopes. And then obviously, yeah, game week 29 will have Blank Gameweeks, and we'll talk about the fixtures a bit more in a minute. And how, obviously, if all the big teams get through, you could be left with a load of dud teams, but not necessarily every big team gets through the FA Cup. We always see teams start to get knocked out. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. Wildcard more powerful, I've already talked about that. The thing with the wildcard is you can kind of dead end your team. So what that means is you're only making transfers up until the point you wildcard, so you're not worried about the future. So if you are wildcarding in Game Week 25, for example, ahead of Game Week 26, from now until Game Week 24, you can make transfers just to fit that fixture period. So if you've got a spare transfer in Game Week 23, you can just go for a punt for Game Week 23 and 24, knowing that you can sell that player when you wildcard. So that is an advantage of saving the wildcard. I'm not saying that wildcard in 18 is now the best strategy, because it's all going to depend on your team. The key question, like I just mentioned, will bench boost be as useful? Will there be as many cheap players with double game weeks? That's something we don't know. We're going to have to wait until the FA Cup fixtures are done. I think it's probably more useful to bench boost now than then. But again, we don't know that for sure. Let's just take a quick look now at the Game Week 20 to 24 fixtures, just to show you how good they are for the teams that we could put in on our wildcard. Okay, so these are the fixtures for some of the teams that I mentioned we would be putting in our wildcard squads to cover 18, 19. And then the fact they've got good fixtures from Game Week 20 to 24. So it's a 5 game week span. So Man City first. This is why I wanted Kevin De Bruyne back in the first place for Game Week 20, because he's got West Brom away. Now, you can talk about how Man United, Man City, etc. struggle to score against West Brom, but they are not a good team. Whether or not Big Sam would have made them a good team by this point, we'll see. But they are there for the taking. And I think, yes, Man City didn't score more than 1 goal in the last time. Doesn't mean they're not going to do that this time, right? So West Brom, good game. Sheffield United, decent game. Burnley away, they just beat them 5-0 at home, so hopefully they could do that away from home. Not necessarily as easy, but Man City usually do fine against Burnley. So first 3 fixtures, Game Week 20, 21, 22 are decent. Then it gets a bit trickier, but at that point you're hopefully either keeping Man City because they've got a double game week, or potentially moving them on to Spurs players, because Spurs don't have the greatest fixtures from Game Week 20 onwards. But in Game Week 23 they have West Brom. So that's what I'm looking to bring back Spurs players. Man United again, first game in Game Week 20, Sheffield United at home. Arsenal away, Southampton home. I've put them orange. I think, against Southampton we scored 3 goals in the reverse fixture. I don't see why we couldn't do that at home as well. Everton have been shipping goals all season, and they've just talked about West Brom. So pretty good fixture run as well. And look, don't get me wrong, none of these fixture runs are perfect, but I don't think any teams that we're looking to target are perfect anyway. So they're pretty good. Then Villa, Burnley away, Southampton away, West Ham at home, Arsenal at home, Brighton away. Again, pretty good fixtures. Villa have been very good this year, one of the best attacking teams so far. Grealish, really good cheap option. Watkins, okay, he's blanked a lot. I'm hoping he comes good at some point. His underlying numbers are decent, and he is cheap as well. We've got to not forget that. He's only 6.1 million. And then I've put Chelsea in just because Chelsea have been a little bit forgotten about, because their attackers probably no good. Fair enough, you're not going to punt on them. But defenders are still good, right? I still think Chilwell's an option. Zuma, Reece James when he's fit as well. They've got a double game week, and then they got Wolves, Burnley, Spurs, Sheffield United, Newcastle. So forget about Werner and Pulisic. That's really good fixtures for defensive returns. So someone like Chilwell or Zuma is a good option that you can hold through Game Week 18. Then they have a double game week, and then they got really good fixtures afterwards. So this is one of the key reasons why I think a wildcard is a decent option for some people, because, like I said, you can cover 18 and 19 with your City, United, and a few Villa. They've got a double game week, and then they've got good fixtures afterwards as well. So don't discount the planning for after the double. The double is important, but so is the rest of the season. So I've already talked a good bit about 26 and 29, but not looked at the specific fixtures. So as a reminder, by Game Week 24, we'll know who's going to blank in 29, and therefore we think that most of those fixtures that do blank or do get postponed will get put into 26. Now, it's worth noting for some teams, because they've already got postponed fixtures to be rearranged, they could be moved into 26 instead. It doesn't necessarily have to be the 29 one. So, for example, Spurs and Southampton in Game Week 29, if one of those two teams gets through the FA Cup far enough for this to be postponed, then Spurs, yes, they would have Spurs versus Southampton that could go in 26, but they've already got Spurs versus Fulham that could go into Game Week 26 as well. So it's not definitely these teams that go in there. But there are some pretty big matches where if Man United get through, Man United versus Palace is off. If one of Liverpool or Chelsea get through far enough, then that fixture's off. So neither Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United will play. Man City, again, is always a fixture that's got a chance to be called off. So suddenly all the big teams are out. Aston Villa are playing really well. That means Sheffield United will be off. There's probably going to be very few fixtures that are potentially on in 29 if all the big teams get through, or all the teams that are playing well now get through. There's usually some kind of shock, right? So maybe Liverpool get knocked out early, or Man City do, or whoever it might be. But in this case, obviously, you only need one of Liverpool or Chelsea to go through for Game Week 29 for the match to be called off. So there is a chance that Game Week 29 will be awful. There'll only be a few fixtures. We won't want any of the players. And most people will say then that the free hit is wasted. That's fine. You just use it in a different game week. You don't have... This is the thing with the free hit. It's flexible. You don't have to use it in 29. If Game Week 26 becomes a more viable place to use it, you use it there. You get 11 really good double game weekers in. You put your bench as cheap as possible. And it doesn't matter, because in Game Week 27, you'll get your team back. The only downside to that is not being able to triple captain in 19 because you're bench boosting, and potentially Game Week 26 because you're using your free hit. But there will be more double game weeks to come. They'll be much smaller. There'll only be like maybe 1 or 2, 3 or 4 teams in a game week that will have one, but you've always got another chance to use triple captain. It could be on Son and Kane because Spurs are going to have quite a few fixtures to rearrange if they keep getting through. Like in Europe, as well as the EFL Cup final, which they're already through to. So lots to think about. In Game Week 26, this is what I'm saying about cheap players. So if Chelsea and Man United are playing each other, and then they've got a double game week as well, and City and Liverpool, and all these big teams are here, it might be difficult to get cheap players in to use for your bench boost. That's one thing to consider. I don't think it should stop you doing that if you're going to free hit in 18, wildcard, then bench boost in 26. It probably shouldn't stop you. But if you've got the option of free hit or wildcard in 18, maybe you should think about it a little bit. Okay, so probably everyone's favourite part of all the videos when you actually get into the draft itself. I think it's important to kind of talk about why you might wildcard before we get into actually talking about which players will be in. Now, I just want to reiterate again, this is not the perfect strategy, okay? I don't think there is a perfect strategy, because even if you free hit in 18 and you've lost a few players, now you have to take a few hits to go for 19 and the bench boost isn't optimal, but then you get to wildcard later on to get through 26, right? There's pros to that and there's cons, just like there's pros to going in 18 and cons to going in 18, right? So I'm not trying to say this is the best way to go and that everyone should go this way, because you don't necessarily have to. And I'm also not saying this is the best draft either. For example, goalkeepers we could talk about for quite a while, which ones are the best to go on Game Week 18, but for now I've got Martinez in there, who plays obviously for Aston Villa, and their defence has been pretty good to the point where I'd probably want their keepers afterwards. But I'll do a little bit of tinkering as I go. But first of all, you've got your triple C, so Stones, Cancelo, De Bruyne, all playing against Brighton in Game Week 18. Then Game Week 19, they got Crystal Palace and Villa. 3 pretty good fixtures over 2 game weeks. Is Cancelo and Stones optimal? Would I like Diaz to be in there? Yes, but it's very hard to fit Diaz in with my kind of structure and the way I've got my budget set out, right? So there's ways I could get him in. For example, Lacazette to Wilson or Chris Wood or someone like that, but as you'll see in a minute, I've got plans for Lacazette. So I'm probably going to risk Stones and Cancelo, but I do think between them, they're going to start at least 6, 7 out of 8 times, if not 8 out of 8, right? Because I think Stones has been so good since he's come in. I think Cancelo is arguably the best left-back and the best right-back they've got. So if he's not playing right-back because of Walker, he can play left-back instead. And obviously Mendy's gone for a bit more trouble as well now over lockdown and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. But I think Cancelo and Stones are good. Would I like Diaz instead of Stones? Yeah, probably, right? Then I've got triple Man United. Now, again, on a free hit team, you might only go double. I don't think people are really going to go for just one Man United player. It's probably going to be at least 2. So on this one, you've got Wan-Bissaka playing Burnley in Game Week 18, then Liverpool and Fulham in Game Week 19, then Sheffield United in Game Week 20. Now, I've gone for Wan-Bissaka instead of Maguire because Maguire's on 4 yellow cards. So if he gets another yellow card before Man United have played 19 games, I think it is, he'll miss the next game. Chances of that are obviously quite unlikely. He's only got 4 in, 14, 15 games so far. But if he does get it and then he misses one of the games in 19, it's not ideal. Whereas Wan-Bissaka, for 0.1 million less as well, doesn't have that risk. Now, Grealish has that risk too, which is another reason I don't want to put Maguire in, because that's 2 players who are just 1 yellow card away from missing a game. The thing with Grealish is he's someone that I would want in after 19. He would only miss one of the Game Week 19 games if he gets the yellow card against Spurs. Most of his yellow cards have come from mouth and off as well. So if he can keep his mouth shut, he'll probably be okay. But I want him after Game Week 20, and I got him for 7.1 million. And he's gone up to 7.7 now. So selling him is not really an option for me. So he's staying as well. So I've got triple Villa, Grealish, Watkins, Martinez, triple City, Stones, De Bruyne, Cancelo, and triple Man United, Wan-Bissaka, Fernandes, Rashford. So all of those players play in Game Week 18. That's 9 players straight away. They all have a double game week and they've all got good fixtures afterwards. The downside to this is it's very hard to fit in Son and Kane because just putting them in makes it very difficult to transition into Game Week 19. There's also no Salah. I think it's very difficult to hold Salah and definitely difficult to hold a Liverpool defender. But I don't think it's the end of the world because Liverpool and Man United's double game weeks are not perfect because they play each other. Whereas Man City don't have that. They have Brighton, Crystal Palace, Villa. Now, Villa are going to give them a good game. You still have to have Man City versus Villa players on your double game week. But overall, City's fixtures are so good. I feel like their defenders can probably match or get close to Liverpool defenders. And obviously, Robertson and Trent are just so much more expensive as well. So, Salah is the key one for me. But overall, for this team, you'd have Martinez, Stones, Cancelo, Wan-Bissaka. So, 1 goalkeeper, 3 defenders. Grealish, De Bruyne, Bruno, Rashford for the blanks. That's another 4 midfielders. And then 2 up front in Watkins and Lacazette, right? So that's only 10 players for the blank game. Now, there is a way to have 11, right? So the way to have 11 would be Lacazette out. You can see I've not hit the button because I've still got Harry Kane. Lacazette out for Chris Wood. So Chris Wood has Man United in the blank game week 18. And then he has West Ham and Liverpool in the double. But Burnley's fixtures are not fantastic after Game Week 19. So they got Villa, Chelsea, Man City, right? Three tough games afterwards. It is worth saying that with this team, because it's a bench boost team, you've got a bit more money spread out. Eventually, you're going to want to take some money out of that. So if you did go for Chris Wood, you could just hold him for Game Week 18, 19, then either get rid of him or bench him. So it's not the end of the world. You could go for him. And the way you get 11 out in Game Week 18 is to put Saka in instead of Rafinha. And obviously, you could go Saka to Rafinha or Saka to Souček if you wanted Souček instead. But I prefer Rafinha, I think. So this way, you've got you still got your Martinez, 3 defenders, Cancelo, Stones, Wan-Bissaka. You've got 5 midfielders, Grealish, De Bruyne, Fernandes, Rashford, Saka. Then Watkins and Wood up front. So you're playing 3-5-2 and 18. All of those players have a double game week apart from Saka, and then you do Saka to Rafinha, and that gives you 15 double game weekers. The only reason I'm not doing that is because I just don't know about... I'm just not sure about Chris Wood. His numbers are always good, but it's Burnley attacker, so it's not very exciting. So I'm not necessarily going that way. The reason I'm putting Lacazette in is because he's playing Crystal Palace, but also... this gives me options. So one thing you'll notice, for anyone that's been following my team for a while, and I'll try not to make this too much longer, I've got no Dallas. I love the guy, but I think the defence I've got is better, especially for the double game week. Like, I think Leeds are good for the double. I don't think they're necessarily keeping clean sheets, but we'll have to wait and see. So I prefer this way with 10 players, and then Lacazette is basically my way to go for potentially a bit of a punt or a way to get Salah back. Now, it hasn't happened yet, which is one of the reasons I've not transferred some of these players in. But Chilwell looks like he could drop in price before Game Week 18. So I'd only have to pay $6 million for him. So that's $0.1 million saved. And also Salah as well, who I've sold, who I'd have to buy back for $0.2 million more. He might also drop in price. And if he does, that saved me another $0.1 million. Now, with this team... in Game Week 19, if I decide that I'm brave enough to go without Salah, which I don't know if I am, I will captain De Bruyne whether I've got Salah or not, but I might still get him back. But let's say I don't, then Lacazette just goes to a double game week player, right? So you've got $8.7 million to spend. So you could go for Danny Ings at 8.3. He's an option. Then you've got 15 double game week players. All these players play twice in Game Week 15, so it's really good for the bench boost. Or if I wanted to go for Antonio, if he's fit, if he comes through the cup games, he's an option too. I could go for him. Now, if I do go for Antonio, I can't quite afford to get Salah back in. I'll just try and bring that down. Because I would have to take Rashford out, and I wouldn't have enough money for Salah. So Salah goes back in. What I'd have to do is get Rodrigo instead. But it's left me with the option, right? And if Chilwell falls in price, 0.1 million, and Salah does as well... then right now I've got 0 to worry about. So I am worried about price changes, which is why I've bought De Bruyne in already. I've made the transfer. I just haven't decided if I'm free hitting or not. That is an option. So I could get Salah back for a -4. So I've gone through 10 players in Game Week 18 and then 15 double game weeks, including De Bruyne, Fernandes, Salah, just for a -4. I've got triple Leeds attack, but Rodrigo would then become a bench option, or I would just sell him, right? Now the idea for kind of Spurs players, if if, and again, I hope you're following this, if I was 100% set on getting Salah back in, instead of Rashford, I could go for Son. So that would cover off a Spurs player in Game Week 18. But as you'll see, Game Week 20, this is after the double now, so they've only got one game, which is fine because obviously if you've got Rashford, he's got 2 games, but one of them's Liverpool. So you could say really it's just Fulham for Man United versus Spurs, Sheffield United. But there's nothing to say Man United can't score against Liverpool, right? So I'm not too bothered about having a Spurs player for this game, even though I think it's very good for Spurs. Then they've got Liverpool, not ideal. Chelsea in 22, not ideal. Brighton in between is good, but I think they only beat Brighton 2-1 last time they played. It's this game I really want them back, 23, which I mentioned before, and that's where Man City's fixtures get bad. And if I want to get rid of De Bruyne, I can. So there's options with this team. If I want Salah back, I can. If I don't, then I don't take a hit, and I have Rashford in here for his double. And obviously, bearing in mind, Rashford would then have Sheffield United at home in Game Week 20 rather than Salah, who's got Spurs. So the idea would 100% be to make it. You can't, from what I can tell, trying to get like kind of best of both worlds. It's pretty difficult to have a Game Week 18 team and a 19 team without making a transfer. So you're definitely locking yourself into one transfer for Game Week 19. The idea then for Game Week 20 would be to roll. So if you haven't got Salah, you just ignore him for Spurs. And then in Game Week 21, you've got 3 transfers. So that's when you've got 2 free transfers. And if you want to make an extra one, that costs you -4, of course. That's when you start taking money out of the team, right? So whether you bench boost now or you bench boost in 26, for a large part of the season, you're going to have money on your bench and you're going to want to use a few transfers to start getting rid of it. The beauty about doing this now is most of your core team, Man United, Man City, etc., have got good fixtures from Game Week 20 to 24, so you're not looking to offload them. You can spend transfers, hopefully, depending on injuries and stuff, on taking money out of your bench. It could be downgrading a keeper, could be downgrading one of Wan-Bissaka or Chilwell, whoever it might be that you don't want to keep, downgrading Lacazette, etc., etc., whoever your 8th midfielder is. So there's room to play around. I hope you followed that. Right? That is the draft as it is. 10 players in Game Week 18 and 15 double game weekers. And also, by the way, one thing you've got over people that aren't playing chips is it's all right saying if you've got the core 6 or 7 players, then it's fine. But if you've not got 4 players, that's 8 points just for appearance points, plus anything they do on top, right? So you're already beating those that aren't using any chips, hopefully. You're also potentially matching or doing as well as those 3 hitting, and you've got 15 double game weekers. So I've slowly talked myself into this. I think this is what I'm going to do, and when I do, I'll make a video on it. And obviously my team selection video will be based on whether I free hit a wild card. But for those of you thinking about it, I think it's a good option. I don't think it's perfect. I think there's other ways to do it. But let me know in the comments below what you think about all that. So there we go. I hope you found that useful, whether you're thinking about wildcarding or not. I think what I try and aim with these videos is just to give a different perspective, right? Because most people, because they're setting their strategies with free hitting or just getting through 18 and 19 without chips, they won't have even thought about the wild card. And I do that sometimes as well. I get so stuck in a strategy, I don't give a proper thought to any other way of playing the game. Whereas this week in particular, I have thought about getting my team through with no chips. I've thought about using the free hit and how I manage it afterwards. And I've also strongly thought about the wild card. So that's why I've put so many videos up with these different strategies. And for me, right now, I'm probably siding towards the wild card for my team. It's not perfect, but that's the way I'm probably going to play it. But we'll see what happens. Just the fact that the bench boost is so close to the blank, it means you can hopefully get through it with minimal injuries. But FPL doesn't always work like that. If you have enjoyed it, please do give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you're new around here as well. So much more content's come this week and throughout the rest of the season as well. So please make sure you hit that sub button and the like button. If you want to support me and Let's Talk FPL even further, help it make it bigger and better than it already is, I do have a Patreon link as well. There's a link to that in the description below. Everybody that signs up goes up on the Legends wall. So big shout out to all of you that have already signed up. You're already getting your perks like the Slack access, WhatsApp access, early team reveals, and stuff like that. And big shout out to Tahir, EI, Paddy C, FPL Pog, and Alex B, who have all signed up since the last video. So thank you for all your support. Thanks to everyone that's watched. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think about this. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you again tomorrow for another video.